Hey, how's it going? My name is Wes. Welcome back to another lesson. In today's lesson, we will look at the second part of our prepositions in Spanish. So in the previous purple grammar lesson, we already went over the first part of the prepositions in Spanish. And in today's lesson, we will look at about 10 more commonly used prepositions in Spanish. Now, just as a quick refresher of what prepositions are a word that we use to show relationships between things in a sentence. And they often tell us about where something is or when something happens. So in English, we, for example, have these three prepositions. We have until, during, and under. So I work until 5 o'clock, and that word until here tells us when something happens. We have during the weekend. So the word during again tells us when something happens. So during the weekend. And we had the word under, which tells us where something is. So the cat is under the table. Alright, so now that we know again what prepositions are and how they work, let's dive into the second part of the prepositions in Spanish. Alright, so the first preposition that we will learn in today's lesson is
Durante.
Which means during.
Durante.
So for example, during the weekend.
Durante el fin de semana. Durante el fin de semana.
And fin de semana means weekend. Alright, the next preposition that we will learn is
Contra. Contra.
So Spain versus Argentina.
España contra Argentina. España contra Argentina.
Alright, then we also have bajo. Bajo, which means under.
Bajo. Bajo.
So for example, the cat is under the table.
El gato está bajo la mesa. El gato está bajo la mesa.
The cat is under the table. And of course, we also have between. So not under, but between.
Entre. Entre.
So for example, if you want to say the letter is between the books.
La carta está entre los libros. La carta está entre los libros.
Alright, the next preposition is ante. So not entre, but ante. Before.
Ante. Ante.
So for example, in this sentence, she stood before the door.
Ella se paró ante la puerta. Ella se paró ante la puerta.
Ante, before. And again, with any of these sentences, with these practice sentences, if you don't know what something means, so for example, here you might understand what la puerta means, it's the door, but you don't really know what paró means. You know that it's a verb, but you don't know what it means. Don't worry about this. In Spanish, you will often have this, especially when you're just beginning to understand Spanish. You will very often have situations where you don't understand the full sentence, but you only understand parts of the sentence. And as I said before in one of the first lessons that we did, I think, you don't necessarily have to study or remember these sentences that we make. I really just want you to focus on, in this case, the preposition ante, which means before.
Ante.
Alright, let's move on to the next preposition.
Tras.
Which means behind or after.
Tras.
So for example, we run after the bus.
Corremos tras el autobús. Corremos tras el autobús.
Alright, then the last three prepositions that we will have a look at. The first one is via.
Vía.
Which means through or by.
Vía.
So for example, I sent the document by mail, or in English we could also say I sent the document through the mail, or even via mail. So I sent the document by mail or through mail is
Envié el documento vía correo. Envié el documento vía correo.
And in this case, you might also hear people say por correo instead of via correo. That's also a valid way of saying that you send something by mail.
Envié el documento por correo. Envié el documento por correo.
So here also in this sentence, you notice that in the beginning, I say envié el documento, which almost sounds like one word. And in Spanish, this is very common because most Spanish speakers speak really fast. So they tend to stick words together to make the pronunciation faster. So envié el documento via correo becomes envié el documento via correo. I sent the document by mail.
Envié el documento vía correo.
Alright, then one of the last prepositions that we will learn in today's lesson and in general is según, which means according to.
Según. Según.
So for example,
Según el profesor es fácil.
according to the teacher, it's easy.
Según el profesor es fácil.
Según, according to. Alright, and then last but not least, the final preposition that we will learn, which is hasta, which means until or up to.
Hasta. Hasta. Trabajo hasta las 5. Trabajo hasta las 5.
So hasta is until or up to. Alright, and then just to wrap up this lesson, let's again go over all the different prepositions that we learned in today's lesson, just to make sure that we remember all of them.
Durante. Contra. Bajo. Entre. Ante. Tras. Vía. Según. Hasta.
Alright, so that's it for the second part of the most frequently used prepositions in Spanish. As always, I hope that this was helpful. I hope you got something out of this. The prepositions in Spanish might be a bit boring to learn, but they are very important because you will use them a lot and you will also hear them a lot. So I really recommend you to learn and study these words. Alright, that's it for today's lesson. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, of course, I hope to see you in the next lesson. Alright, hasta la próxima. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.